Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all safe and well. Now on today's episode, I've got another 5 jazz albums for you to, contemplate over. Hopefully there's one or two that you've never seen before and maybe another two that you've seen but you wanted somebody else's perspective on it. So the albums I'm going to show you, jazz predominantly, or it's an album which features a jazz track kind of thing. I'm going to kind of loosen it up a bit so I can get a few more albums in there. My name's Lewis. This is the Saku-san channel, and predominantly what I do here is I give you an alternate slant on what's out there in jazz vinyl. So there's loads of wonderful YouTubers, content creators out there in the jazz vinyl scene. Loads, they've got wonderful content. Check them out if that's the more traditional stuff is what your taste is. Over here we do it slightly differently. There's a wide world of jazz out there, and I want to experience as much of it as possible, to be quite honest with you. That's my slant on things. That's my philosophy. If there is one, that's it. I want a breadth of jazz in my collection rather than narrowing it down to who's considered like the best of the best and just have their entire catalogues. So my taste is slightly different. So hopefully you're going to enjoy the ride and understand it's different from what other people are doing. The vast majority of people in this space are doing. But hey, sometimes you gotta have an outlier who just does something slightly different. Why not? So if you've enjoyed the content around here in the past and you like this particular video, what I'm talking to you on now, if you happen to enjoy it and find it somewhat informative, please consider liking, subscribing, and if you found my content to be of benefit to you in the past and you want to say, hey Lewis, I'm going to send you a drink, you know what I mean? You're all right in my eyes. That would be appreciated, and there's a number of ways you can do that. If you're subscribed to the channel, you will see a link icon in the description area down below, and if you hit that, it shows you what to do from there. Alternately, I've got a PayPal account, and if you want to leave a donation, it'll be gratefully received. It keeps the channel lights on. It keeps me, it keeps me buying vinyl kind of thing. So, if that's an idea which you're happy to go along with, again, information will be in the description area. Along with that, we're going to have links to at least one track from each of the albums I'm going to be showing you today. It's down below. You're going to find a link. You can hear it for yourself. I really would suggest having a good listen to the whole album. Sometimes that might put, it can go either way. It'll either confirm what I'm saying, or you're going to think that I've got it absolutely wrong in a particular case. If you feel either way and you want to let everyone else know as well as me, put it in the comment section down below. This is not all about me, putting this information out there. I like to have information back, some of your suggestions, some of your recommendations, and I might, I'm going to be inspired by your taste as well. It's a two-way street kind of thing, and that's the way I'd like it anyway. So let's continue with today's topic. 5 jazz albums for you, or albums which happen to feature a particular jazz track on there. I'll explain later anyway. So it's 5 albums today. Right, got my notes in front of me. Right, let's get the first album out. Right, this is the particular artist in question on this first one. I consider him to be a channel favorite. I kind of like his output, I really do, and anyway, the gentleman in question is Doug Rainey. This is the Doug Rainey Quintet, and the album's entitled Lazy Bird. and it's on Steeplechase. Let's put it on that side so there's no glare. He looks kind of like worried, quite pensive, like, "Ooh, they're looking to foreclose on me," you know what I mean? It's stuff going on. That's the reverse side. So this is a 1985 release on Steeplechase, as I said, and this is Doug Rainey. So I'm going to look at some of my notes and yeah, see if I want to add to my immediate impressions. So I've listened to this, in fairness, I've listened to that album quite a few times. I've written, yeah, Doug Rainey, jazz guitarist. It's an energetic set. So yeah, it's kind of within his wheelhouse to be playing albums at a, you know, a fair lick, to be quite honest. He can do a lot, but yeah, it took nothing away from my experience. I enjoyed this thoroughly, this album. Played with verve, which is basically saying the same thing. Loved the mixture of compositions. The track Walking the Duck is the only track on the album written by Rainey himself. He's using other standards by other musicians, well-known musicians, but it's a unique kind of take on the original. It stands, I feel his versions of things stand up on their own. You can kind of consider them a separate thing. Yeah, it's just really good the way he interprets things anyway. But yeah, the track Walking the Duck is his only original composition on this particular album. I go on to say, I don't mean this in a rude or disrespectful way. I know what to expect from Mr. Rainey. He's very good at what he does. Yeah, it really is a compliment from my point of view, in the sense of I can observe that you've got a unique take on things. It's not the, yeah, and I don't want to disrespect anybody else. It's kind of like, this guy really takes it seriously, and he really is that talented. So it's his unique slant on things carries weight with me, to be quite honest. Yeah, that's why I think I enjoy the experience, because I've been thoroughly convinced that this guy knows what he's doing. He really does. He's not messing about. But anyway, fantastic piano work by Ben Beziakov, is the pianist on this particular album. And I go on to conclude, pound for pound, one of the better jazz albums out there. Definitely in my collection, it's one of the better ones. Let me just put that there for a second. Let me show you that one more time. Yeah, it's definitely, this is not mucking about. It really is that good. It's let me just put that down for a second. Yeah, it really is that good. Don't be fooled by kind of like how casual I'm being. It's a real deal jazz album. I think, kind of irrespective of where you are in your journey in jazz, if you come across this album and you listen to it, and you got to do it with an open mind, because in the sense of, you got to be fair, and I think don't let the reputations of other jazz artists influence you. Just take it on its own merits. If you do it like that, with that kind of sincerity, then you'll quickly realize how good this album is. It really is. So yeah, I'll try to think of what kind of price I paid for this. I've had this for a while now. I think it was around Tone Poets type money to get my hands on it. Yeah, thoroughly worth it in my eyes. It's just like, it's just a no-brainer. It's a strong recommendation. So yeah, if you see it out there in the wilderness and you see it for a competitive price, then I just pull the trigger. It's a no-brainer. But please, down below, have a listen to it for yourself. See what you think. See if you agree with me or you don't. Yeah, I'm biased. You know what I mean? I like Doug Rainey. That's it. Right. The oh gosh, why am I doing this? The second album today is by Carter Jefferson, and it's called The Rise of Atlantis, and it's what label is this on? Well, the version I've got is on the Timeless Records label. Let's see if I can find out what it was originally put out on, if possible. No. Anyway, let's just show it to you. Oh, let me put it on that side. That's a really nice cover. I really do like that. And that's the reverse. Let's show you the front side again. So, Carter Jefferson, The Rise of Atlantis. I believe this came out 1979 originally. So, there you go. I'm going to find my notes and what I've written as well. Because, again, there's some really good albums I'm showing you today. You guys are in for an absolute treat. So, first of all, let's just go through some of the notables on this particular album. Yeah, Carter Jefferson, if you don't know who he is the US saxophonist. I hadn't come across him until I actually heard this album, and I had to say, again, it's like I'm surprised that the jazz community isn't talking about this particular album. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but when it's good, it really is good. So let me just say that in general context. The notables on this album are Terumasu Hino and Shunzo Ono. They share the trumpeting duty on this particular album. So I believe it's one features on side A and one features on side B. I think that's the way it goes. And John Hicks on piano, again another channel favorite. I love the piano work of John Hicks, I really do. So I've written in general comments, an album of two halves. Let's start with side 2 or side B. It contains 3 tracks of they're in a variety of styles which are quite interesting in and of themselves. One is a more kind of bop, hard bop. One is a more soul jazz. And the last one, I would put in the kind of general vicinity of what Art Blakey sound kind of like. So, but each of these kind of subgenres in jazz are played with absolute, like, they're not mucking about. It's done with some skill. There's no doubts about it. But of the tracks, the 3 tracks on side B, I only kind of listened to one more than once, kind of thing. The other styles are not my styles in jazz, so I kind of like, out of respect, I did listen to them the way through, but I didn't want to listen to them again. That was enough for me. So yeah, it's nothing there is offensive on side B, nothing at all. Like, of the 6 tracks on this album, 4 of which are really to my standard, what I really like in jazz. So yeah, but when you move on to side 1 or side A, it becomes a different story. This is where, for me, the album just should be getting plaudits. It really, I think what might let it down is Carter Jefferson is good and he's got good ideas. Is he the best saxophonist out there? No, he isn't. But he's not rubbish either. He's like really good. It's I'm just trying to think of if the compositions were in the hands of somebody like a Henderson. Is it Joe Henderson I'm thinking of? I think it is Joe Henderson I'm thinking of. Maybe, yeah, I'm just trying. I don't want to be unfair to him because the level I think he's coming in at is easily Stanley Torrentine level. It's he ain't far off it. You know what I mean? He really isn't. But yeah, it's just an interesting one. It gave me food for thought, this album, in terms of where does he fit in things, because he's really got good ideas and he does play well. But did that detract from my experience of the three hot tracks on the side A? No, it didn't. It's like they were superb. What else have I written? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, pretty much what I've written here is just what I've kind of like let out just a second ago. It's yeah, I was just blown away by all three tracks. Of course I'm gonna leave a track down below. You know what? I forgot. Yeah, so on the first album, let me just go back to it. Me being stupid. The track that I'm probably going to recommend from this album is Theo's Waltz. Theo's Waltz. That's probably what I'm going to do from that album. In terms of the Carter Jefferson, I can see even in my notes I was struggling between two tracks. Do I give you the obvious one, or do I give you like the kind of, if you like this track, it's kind of like smooth sailing for you. You got no problems with this album, and I'm still deliberating about it. I think at the last minute, it's between the Rise of Atlantis track and Wind Chimes. Is out of those two tracks I'm going to be using. I think I'm going to leave it to the last minute and leave the appropriate link, whatever I think's at that time is the better representation. So yeah, forgive me for that. So like I said, 6 tracks on this album, 4 of which are definitely in my wheelhouse. The other 2, not so much my taste, but your taste could be different from mine, and you could like those 2 tracks and nothing else. So yeah, so Carter Jefferson, The Rise of Atlantis, I believe 1979. Yes, that's what I believe. That's the reverse side. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that album. I must admit, it's up there. Yeah, it's definitely unfair that it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. The third album today. I just think I'm giving you some absolute monsters today. I really do. Like the first 2 out of the box here, the Doug Rainey, the Carter Jefferson, just they're just really good albums. If you've not encountered these artists before, I'm so excited for you. I really, and you want to give jazz a chance. I'm excited for you, and you hearing it for the first time, just yeah. Anyway, the third album today is, let's see where I've written the notes for it, is a 1969 album. It's entitled Windmill Tilter, the story of Don Quixote, told by Ken Wheeler and the John Dankworth Orchestra. So let me show you the cover first of all. Let me put it on that side. Love that cover. I really do. Let me show you the reverse. Really nice, I've got to say that really nice quality sleeve. I really do enjoy that. So, on the Fontana Decca record label, as I said, it's a 1969 release. Right. This is out. Look, this album is like no messing about. As I said with the Doug Rainey, I truly do believe if you take your jazz bias out of it and just go by what is a good jazz album, what is consistent jazz album, like 80-90% of it you just can't argue with. It's just the Doug Rainey's in that category. It really is that good. Now I'm going to say that this one here, Windmill Tilter by Ken Wheeler and John Dankworth, is in that category as well. It's all three of the albums I'm showing you so far are completely different from each other. You can like one of them, you could like all of them for completely separate reasons. It would make sense. So don't be surprised if you have that kind of reaction to it. This is British jazz. I've recounted a story like a few times on the channel of me going to a now non-existent record shop in Islington, and it had a really gruff owner, and the shop was absolutely, I mean, it was a treasure trove of jazz. Whatever you can think of, it was pretty much there. You could buy it. And he was a really quirky guy, and he wasn't for everybody, and most people declined to purchase from him because he was so gruff. It was only the kind of more confident people who just go, I don't care, I'm here to buy them, you know, a particular album, he seems to have it, I'm gonna get it, I don't care. But he had this thing about how British jazz is, in his mind anyway, significantly better, is better, and whatever that means, better than US jazz. And when I heard him say this, I was like, you know, and I know this happened decades ago, and I still remember it like yesterday, kind of thing. It shook the foundations of what I thought I knew, or what I thought my journey in jazz would be. Because like anyone else, and I was new to jazz when I encountered this particular retailer. Everything I had learnt up until then, it just wasn't up for debate, dispute, or anything. It's like we're not even having a conversation. But this album represents an idea, a concept, and it executes it perfectly. It's the literary tale of Don Quixote by, I think it's Cervantes, is it? Yeah, I'm sure. Let me have a quick try to have a look. Yeah, I think it is Cervantes. The reason why I'm looking there is I've got a few books just around there. So I think it's Cervantes. So absolutely astonishingly funny book on the human condition kind of thing. And this is an audio representation of some of the key kind of like, if you was reading Cliff Notes of Don Quixote, this covers like the Cliff Note versions, you know what I mean? So this album is just, I'm just super excited for those who have not heard this, and those who are kind of like relatively new to jazz and kind of don't know where to go in what direction. This is a really good example of what jazz can do, and probably only the British jazz pioneers of that time could have done this, because it does have a unique sound, there's no doubts about it. Let me see some of my notes. Since I purchased this album, it probably has been played more than any other album. Yeah, you know what? I think I wouldn't disagree. There's a bit of hyperbole in there, but for the amount of albums I have and the amount of albums that I listen to, it probably gets more, you know, on the turntable in terms of what's being played. It probably is disproportionately more than most albums I own, significantly more than most albums I own. Kind of makes sense. It's fully deserving of it. It really is that good. It's this is what getting into, for me anyway, it's kind of like what getting into jazz kind of was about. The dream of encountering albums kind of like this. Maybe I'm being too romantic about it. Maybe when you hear it, and I'm going to leave a link down below, you might just think, wow, you know what, you're just being like a bit too romantic about it. It's all right. It's no more than that. If you feel that way, I totally get it. If you could leave a comment down below, and share some of your thoughts, I'd appreciate it. But for me, anyway, this is the case that I'm going to put up for this album. And I say, if I was to do a roundup video of, the 10 jazz albums in my collection, which I know I probably couldn't live without, and I'd have to exclude anything by Miles Davis or John Coltrane. They're not in the equation. They're definitely getting excluded. It's too easy to put them in. In terms of jazz albums which I think are complete, this is one of them. So 1969, Windmill Tiller, Story of Don Quixote by Ken Wheeler and John Dankworth, and that was originally on the Fontana Decca label. So yeah, absolute peach. So that's the third one down. Wow, I think I've given you some absolutely tip-top albums to consider there if you don't have them already. Yeah, I'm just pleased for you. Now the fourth one, this is where I might just lose you. I might just, you might just go, you know what, you push my patience. You really have, and now I'm not listening to you anymore. I can understand that, but just come on the journey with me. And yeah, it may not, yeah, it's easily not for everyone what I'm gonna, but even if there's one of you out there who gets it, then I think my work is done. I'll take that. Just 1, 2, 3 would be like terrific, but just the one, I just say, all right, cool. Right, the album that I'm going to be referring to is a 1975 release, and it's by a French. What they are and what they do on this album, I'm going to come to in a minute, but they're French. Well, yeah, it's recorded in France. They're predominantly of French descent, the actual musicians, and the group itself is called Moravagine. Moravagine, sorry. You know what? I even know the word, and I don't know how I stumbled over it. Moravagine. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, let's just show you the cover. I'm disappointed in myself. There you go. Right. So, just to go over some of it. Those who are around for the really early days of this channel might recognize that album. It might have been my, my 10th, 11th video ever kind of thing, and the format I was wrestling with, how do I do, how am I going to go about this? Am I going to show things which are other than jazz, or what are people responding to, and does that fit in with what I want to buy anyway? All those questions were being asked at that time. In terms of the content, it was it was worse than it is even now. If you can imagine being even less techie back then in terms of everything, it was, anyway, fun times anyway. So the album in question, Moravagine, I actually showed it at that time kind of thing, and I think the track that I presented for it didn't hit the mark with people. They kind of misunderstood what was going on, so I'm going to try and clear up things. All right, so I'm going to show you again. Moravagine, okay? And you think, oh yeah, anyway. So let's just read some of my notes on this. Absolutely astonishing album. Although, to be fair, not a jazz album as such. And I think that's really important to probably preface this album on. You kind of got to know what it is. So it's got elements of Latin jazz of course, jazz rock, prog rock, and a bit of folk in there as well. That could be separate tracks, and it also could be in one track on its own. So that's where we're going. So if you're a jazz purist, and you're into the top 75 jazz artists out there kind of thing, who everybody would reel off, you're not going to like this probably. You're really not. It's maybe I'm being unfair, but I would assume somebody who was deep into the jazz lore, that type of person, is not going to like this. The person who's got wider taste in music, in terms of they like world music, I don't know, they like disco, they like folk music, you're probably going to appreciate what's on this album a bit more. And certainly from the my musical taste and the background of music that I was exposed to, this album just it's just super enjoyable, and it's so underrated. It's for what's on it and the journey it takes you on, if you're willing to go along with it, is, I gotta give them credit. I really do. Let's see what else. If you enjoyed Serge Gainsbourg's Melody Nelson LP, you'll probably like this. Yeah, I will go along with that. I like that particular album because it's absolutely out there. It's raunchy. It's got sophistication. It's got all sorts of madness in it, and it's just, as a work of art, I really do appreciate it. I kind of put this album in the same kind of category, and it's just one of exposure that this isn't considered, on equal footing. I think it's that good. I think it's that interesting that it should be put on the same level. Incredible musicianship. Pity about the actual recording. Yeah, nobody's, there's nothing you can do. It's a historical problem. If they find the master tapes for it, could they re-release it in a? Yeah, I suppose so. They can. I'm sure the technology's out there. Yeah, I would love to see a reprint of that particular album and a cleaner version of it, the audio, a much cleaner one. That would be fantastic. But it's French. Let's just it's got, let me just go over it again. It's got elements of Latin jazz, jazz rock, prog rock, folk. That's all on this album, but there is a jazz track on here which I think's phenomenal. Zabuco, but it's going to have tinges of other things in there, and that's what makes it interesting for me. It is, if you had a record shop and you try to file this, ideally you'd want 3 copies of it, because you could legitimately put it in 3 different genres and it would work. It definitely is jazz in parts. This not this not mince about it. It is. But yeah, I want you to have a listen to, please, if you can, listen to the whole album. If you've got the time to do it, please do that. Listen to the initial track that I'm going to present to you. But if you wouldn't mind listening to the whole album, and if you would make a comment about it, because again, I would find that interesting, because as you can see, I'm an enthusiast about the album. I've got no skin in the game, but I think it's interesting, at least. Now, the last album today, and it's more a controversial one to my eyes anyway, and I'll explain why in just a second. Now, the artist in question, Cedar Walton, this is his quartet, and there are, in fact, let me give you some info before I show you the cover of it. It's a 1979 release. Yeah, as I said, Cedar Walton Quartet, and the album's entitled Second Set. And featuring on this album are the following artists: Bob Berg on sax, Cedar Walton on piano, Sam Jones on bass, and Billy Higgins on drums. Yeah, let's show you the reverse side. Yep. So why is it controversial in terms of like showing you albums today? And I like to show you, when I'm showing you presenting albums to you, I like to show you albums that, of course, I believe in because I bought them. I don't get freebies or anything like that. I buy just like you, but this is what I happen to buy. So yeah, on our journey together with this channel, it's kind of like I've consciously thought about, do I recommend albums to you that I'm buying anyway, but do I show it to you because it's like, does it represent good value for money? Because the average tracks on an album probably is about 7 or 8. You're spending the money what you're spending. If it's only got one track on it, is that really good in terms of encouraging people to build their collections? And I want you to get value for money out of it anyway. So that's how I am. But also I am prone to, if I hear something and I discover that it's just the only track of any merit to my ears on a particular album, but I still want it despite its actual cost to me, the retail price for it, I'm going to have it. This is one of the cases. So Cedar Walton Quartet, second set on the Steeplechase label. Yeah, it's not okay. Here's where the confession is. The track itself is, I believe, it could be a Coltrane track. Is the composition called Blue Train. And correct me if I'm wrong, if I've got the wrong composer of that particular track. But anyway, Cedar Walton, pianist, really good pianist. Like, do I like him better than John Hicks? Where does Cedar Walton stand up against like Herbie? All interesting. Like, to me, it's not. They're close, you know what I mean? It's yeah. Anyway, I'll have to think on it. Anyway, the album itself has some great musicians, as I've already gone across. Absolutely remarkable musicians. Now, there's a set of, I believe, 4 from these concerts in, it might have been Copenhagen somewhere. Like, you know what, I should just look. Give me a second. See if I can read it really quickly. Yeah, at the Montmartre, Copenhagen. Yeah. That's where the set of live concerts took place by this quartet. And it was recorded and broken up into chunks. Now, I'm a real big fan of Cedar Walton's material. I don't have enough of it. For whatever reason, it's not accessible as I would hoped it would be, his back catalogue, for where I am in the world. Where you are, it could be, a matter of just going to a particular shop and getting it. So to understand those conditions, there's certain artists, certain albums, certain tracks. And when I heard the version of Blue Train on this particular album, I fell in love with it immediately. It was just immediately addictive, the composition. It just lit my fire of jazz, and I kind of like, it was a happy, sad moment in terms of, I wish I knew of this track's existence decades ago, it probably would have hastened my journey into jazz, and that being, really the focus of my vinyl collection is that genre. So yeah, but equally it's a wonderful tune. It really, yeah, and I'm kind of like, I hope you get a real sense of like I got to rein it in terms of my enthusiasm. It's the rest of the album I just don't care about. Blue Train, it was worth whatever I paid for it. You will have to decide whether or not you think on vinyl it's worth paying that amount of money for one track. You might even like all of it. You might like the parts of the album that I don't. So it's going to be various mileage. But for me, this is why I bought this particular album. I can't really justify it to you in terms of you should do the same, but I had to have this track. So there. So let me show it to you one more time. It's the Cedar Walton Quartet with the album's second set, featuring Cedar Walton, Sam Jones, and Billy Higgins, and Bob Berg. Now, there's something I've been wrestling with in terms of... Yeah, I think we've got a couple of moments to go over this. Bob Berg as a saxophonist, don't know the guy at all, and I don't really mean any disrespect or anything, but I think it's part of my education in jazz and sharing some of my thoughts. It's kind of, I just think he's one of the luckiest geezers around, because when you consider the other artists he's around for this concert, yeah, like I said, if you would have given that opportunity with that composition to, let's say, earlier saxophonists today, and we use Carter Jefferson's performance would have been much better than Mr. Berg's. And look, Mr. Berg has got more talent in his little finger than I've got in my whole body. You know what I mean? Let's get it real. It's like, it's just a comparison thing, and when you're with other, like, I didn't think I'll get to this understanding of jazz. I really didn't. But, and it's not to be mean, I just think you realize the gap between, Jones, Walton, and Higgins, their level, which they're operating at, and what Mr. Berg's doing. You notice that there is a, and the sax is my instrument, what I primarily listen to. So I kind of got an idea of where he actually stands in the scheme, well, in what I consider good and bad and what's average type thing. And yeah, found him wanting. But on that particular track, he just fits in. It would be so interesting if you could have heard another saxophonist of greater stature than Mr. Berg. I mean, no real disrespect. That's, that was your level type thing. So, hey, but an outstanding album well, not an outstanding album, but an outstanding track from an album that I kind of desired and shouldn't really, can't justify, but still bought it anyway. So yeah, I'll leave a link down so you can hear this down below, so you can hear it for yourself and see if you agree with me. You might just say, well, it's a bang average tune. I'll take that chance. I don't think you're going to say that, but if you haven't heard it before, I don't think you're going to say that. But yeah, I'll leave a link down below. So that's the 5 albums for today. Hopefully there's at least 1 or 2 which you haven't seen before. And as I said, I'd leave links down below so you can hear at least 1 track for yourself. I would strongly suggest on all the albums today, give them an entire listen to. If you've got the time to do that, please do it, so you've got a better idea and you're better informed, and kind of gives you a better picture of what I'm saying, whether you agree or disagree with me. So, an absolute pleasure once again. Thank you for joining me for this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Yeah, particularly if you enjoyed the content. Uh, Please consider contributions up via the thanks icon down below, or in the description I'll leave the PayPal link if you so choose. So until the next episode, which I'm hoping I'm going to have 5 absolute stunners for you on the next episode. Not like today didn't have stunners, but if I can get it going, the next episode is going to have 5 outrageously good jazz albums. So until the next episode, please look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you soon for the next episode. So until then,